Hey, beautiful people who will eventually show up to be a part of this conversation. Today is Wednesday. It is an impactful Wednesday, I hope. And when I say impactful, I mean it has been a positive, restful, hey Bobby, wonderful, hey Kate, Wednesday. I hope we are feeling strong. We're heading into this weekend, Juneteenth. There's so much to celebrate. We're still in Black Pride Month, Caribbean Heritage Month, and Black Music Month. I'm like, what are all the things we are celebrating that have something to do with Black shit? I'm really excited to have this conversation with my good sis Olanike. We have never, thank you. We have never gone live before together. And I feel like this conversation in particular is one that I've been wanting to have for such a long time. And I'm just super, super excited about it. Today we're going to be talking about the global consistency of Blackness. And so it's just going to be a literation. I think Hannah is going to be a literation. And I hope, well, first of all, I know that I'm going to learn a lot. And I hope that people who listen and catch the replay learn a lot. And I'm hoping that Olanike also can figure out how to get on my Instagram live, because it's going to be like the blind, the old lady. I'm proud of you, sis. What are you talking about? Okay, so I'm going to go try to find my good sis. We're talking. And so, again, just really thankful for y'all. While we are waiting for Olanike to show up, I would love for folks, whether you are Black or not, to tell us what your Juneteenth plans are. All right, because I think that in the United States, Juneteenth is a communal celebration, but it's also a time for communal learning. Yay! And so I would love to hear, or see in the chat at least, the people's plans for the Juneteenth. Because I am heading to Montgomery with Legacy Trip. Shout out to Tina. My good sis Tina Sean. And Olanike should be showing up on the screen soon. This is a global call, y'all, so I feel super, super fancy. But if you can hear me in the comment section on Juneteenth, talk to my girls about it. Awesome. I think that sounds like a great plan. Kate? I'm heading to Montgomery, Alabama. I'll be at the Lynching Memorial this weekend in support of Black women and femmes who will be there as well. So it's going to be a great experience. I also think it's going to be a heavy experience. Olanike, so I am adding you, and so hopefully you will show up soon. A panel in Philly. Bobby, you should have been last weekend when they had the Roots picnic. Yay! I was like, I sure hope sis don't need no help with the tech, because I will not be able to assist. I won't. Guys, the Juneteenth week in Baltimore. Hannah, when we turn up together, I can't wait. Jamal, hey brother. Y'all are going to be in some super Black cities. Philly, Baltimore.
Hey, love it.
Turn
That's
up.
my city.
That makes me feel, I don't know how I feel about being in Montgomery. I mean, it's an accurate place to be for Juneteenth. But, Tommy, yay! Okay. I'm just going to tell people while we have this conversation, and then I'm just going to sit there and just look at you and just be like, okay.
This is going to be a conversation.
I'm going to be like, look, tell us all the truth. All right, so this is why we're having this conversation. First of all, everybody who, like, if you pay attention to me at all on the internet, you just know that my favorite thing of Black folks, Black women in particular, I'm just like, yes, I get my joy. And so I sent you an email, or I don't even know what it was, but it had the phrase,
yes, It
Lanyap.
was on your website.
Yeah, my website. And it had Lanyap. And you were like, y'all got Lanyap? And I was like, of course we have Lanyap. And then you were like, Black people, we globally consistent. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the concept you related Lanyap to in that email?
Yes. Yes. So, thank you everyone that's on.
Some of my favorite Black folks. And some of my non-Black folks too.
What'd you say?
I was just saying, some of my favorite Black folks are with us tonight.
Are on. Yes. You got to greet people. We're going to talk about that later. That is globally Black and consistent is you speak to people and you greet people. So hello, hi, hey fam, welcome, greetings to you. So I don't even know how to say it because I've never heard it said until you just said it. Lanyap?
Yes.
Lanyap on your website. And I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. Never heard of this here on the continental USA. Whatever it is, that phrase is the 50 states. And we have something similar. I'm sure there is a Yoruba word for it. I'm from the Yoruba people in West Africa. But in Pidgin English, we'll talk about that a little bit later too, to our form of, I don't know, AAVE, if you will, broken English. We just call it dashing. So the concept, as Kina explained it to me, is if someone, if you're exchanging, usually in West African context, it's in a market, in a commerce kind of transaction, right? Whoever is selling the thing to you puts a little extra on it. They dash you something. Like us, my sister, I dash you dash me that one. So if you're buying a bag of tomatoes, for example, and you've gotten the big ones, thank you, Jara. Thank you, my sister, in the comments. Yes, Jara. So if you're buying a bag of tomatoes and you've gotten, it's like 10 for however much, and you've gotten your 10, and there's a little tiny tomato, you might be like, "Ah, just dash me that one," or they'll just give it to you, right? Or if you have a child with you, they might be like, "Oh, this one is for my son. This one is for my daughter," which is like your kid that's with you or whatever. So that's the concept, right? And it's here in Ghana. My husband is Ghanaian, and they have a word for it. I think I asked him earlier. It's in Todo. You can correct me in the chat if I got that completely wrong, because I do not speak any of the Ghanaian languages. But yeah, I was like, yo, we are just, Black people are dope. I should have worn my I Love Black People shirt today because I have a t-shirt. So I feel like there's a little bit of a delay. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop so I can hear you.
Yes. And lanyap means a little extra. And
a little extra,
which, I mean, if there's anyone to describe us across the diaspora, it's that right there, right? And when you sent me that email,
alone,
I was like, what? And it made me think of, so I just started watching High on the Hog. I'm just late on it. And
all the feels.
First of all, I know that rice was our shit, but it tracks. I did it. I know. Don't make me feel bad. I didn't know.
Girl. Yes.
I didn't know.
What is it? But okay.
I was this years old when I realized that rice was our shit. So I'm already floored because I'm like, we did rice too? We did rice. We did coffee. There is no ends, right? And they were talking about jollof, right? And it's a red rice in the Carolinas. And I was like, but that's jambalaya down here in South Louisiana.
Yes. Yes.
And so that ancestral through line.
Yes. I'm going to get emotional on this live before this is done. I know I am. I can feel it already. I'm going to welcome it in. Okay. So that's the thing that I feel like is so beautiful, incredible, amazing,
Now you make
is
me
that
emotional.
um, our people were sold, taken, trafficked, but we kept ourselves, if that makes sense. And for little me I was born and raised partially in the U.S., but we left and came back to the U.S. when I was 10 years old. So I didn't have early memories of the United States at all. We moved back to the U.S. when I was 10. And as a 10-year-old whose only memories up until that point, like conscious memories, were being in Nigeria and moving back, I was like, these are my people. Like, I saw no difference in my 10-year-old eyes, right? So I recognized us, period, because we are one, and we can get into all that as we go. But yeah,
And I want to come
it's
back
deep.
because what we're talking about, and I think even honoring the moment, right? We're heading into Juneteenth here in the States, and untangling and wrapping all of those things, the healing that still needs to be
Yeah,
to occur, all the trauma, right? But I want to get to the bare bones system, what that means, right? Like red rice, jollof, and jambalaya, which
yeah,
is, I mean, the researchers these 13 million, which we'll never have an accurate counting of how many people were transported from the continent across the globe, right? I
yep,
can't imagine that we'll ever have the accurate number. But you took people physically away from Homeplace and did
yep.
everything you possibly could do to eradicate their connection.
And
The
you couldn't do it.
could not accomplish it.
Nope.
And that right there, I would be scared of that too.
Okay. Y'all should be scared.
You know what I'm saying? People were beaten, threatened, dragged, all of those things to remove them from the culture and the understanding that we have heritage. And the shit still showed up.
Strong. Not just showed up strong, birthed industry,
This is why
plural industry.
this is
Like,
why I keep a running list of why reason 11,406 why we deserve reparations. And I want to just say this because I've been, leaving these seeds every place. The
yeah.
conversation around reparations to me, sis, is a global conversation and it's a local conversation, right?
Child, don't even get me started. Yes.
When we talk about Juneteenth, we're talking about the descendants of the enslaved folks here in the United States, right? But to your point, enslavement was a global, and
Yep.
what we don't talk about in the United States, and I would love for you to speak to it if there is a part of a global conversation that is happening, is what happens to the continent of Africa, because
Yeah.
it's not a country. Full stop.
Africa is a continent, my
A
friends.
whole
Yes.
continent. Okay. If we're saying the biggest natural resource of a place is people, then
Mm-hmm.
the continent loses 13 million.
Yeah.
That's a global conversation. So first you're gonna
Yep.
get a check because I'm a descendant of the enslaved over here. But then we need to have a conversation, but not even separate. They're concurrent conversations about what it
Yep.
do to Homeplace and what was the ongoing trauma of colonization and
Yep.
theft.
And
So
straight theft.
run all of us checks, right?
How about write the checks, but also stop? Because like stop stealing
I mean, and that's why I said
when you haven't even stopped.
the ongoing efforts to colonize the continent.
That part. So let me give you something that a detail of some news that came out recently about the Francophone countries in West Africa. So the French colonized well, a lot of different European powers colonized different parts of Africa, but in West Africa, it's mostly French and the British. And most of West Africa was colonized by the French. So I just found out, I think everybody found out, kind of woke up to the facts in the last couple of years that not only did, after all the Francophone countries, the French colonized and now French-speaking countries in West Africa all got their independence, they were still, I mean, the French are brutal, man. They were still forced to keep their money, their actual money, in the in the French system, in the French banks. Basically, I want to say 85% is the number of whatever GDP or whatever term it is had to go to France. And of that 85% that was gone to France, they could go and ask for their own money back if they wanted it back as a so-called independent nation. And they could only get up to, I want to say 15% of their 85% back every year. And this just ended 3 years ago.
I don't even.
So all this time that we want to talk about these African countries are so behind, they're not developed, they're not this, they're not that. Do you know what's going on and what's been going on? Yes, big R reparations. First of all, stop stealing. And secondly, return what you stole.
How are you going to charge African countries, African leaders to rent out their artistic works that's in your country that everybody knows belongs to that community?
To them.
But if they take their stuff and exhibit it, they got to pay a fee.
Girl. It's wild, like when you
artifact that everyone agrees that is ours, and then y'all physically took it to your country, and then if we want to have it back for people to see and enjoy it, we got to pay a fee.
A lot of the artifacts and art pieces, ancestral, spiritual, like deeply meaningful pieces of art now. I mean, art then too, but art now meaning like it's in museums and all over the world and whatever, that came from what is now known as Nigeria, was from Benin, which is not the same country of Benin. There's a section. I think it's Edo State. Nigerians, if you're in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's in the Edo State now. All these names are new. Nigeria is a new name, a new made up name, etc. But the Edo people are real.
Wait,
and there's a state.
Pause, because you just got me all the way straight. Nigeria is a new name, sis.
Oh, Nigeria is a made up. I mean, Nigeria as a nation is a made up. All these countries are made up. So after all the French and the German and everybody was here, the Portuguese and the Brits were like, oh shoot, they're trying to get free. Okay, something's happening. They all went and had a meeting. We love meetings, don't we? And they decided, all these white men around a big table decided how they were going to slice up the continent and fought over who was going to get what piece. And they basically drew their own map, and the Brits got Nigeria, and French got Senegal, and on and on and on and on. So they They made this up. And I'm Nigerian, right? So what happened in Nigeria is especially upsetting because what they did during colonization is, so the Nigerian border includes 3 primary ethnic groups, even though there's like thousands, really. And so what they did is, because the Yoruba people, and the Igbo people are at the bottom near the ocean, we saw what they were doing in time. What I was going to tell you about Benin is that the king in Benin at some point decided, we're not doing the slavery shit no more. And the Brits got mad. They didn't like that. And so they basically went and burned the shit down, and they took all those artifacts, all those art pieces with them. So when you actually look beyond, and there were some news stories about this recently, like, and there's still movements happening to like return all the bronze, carvings and everything back. That they were burning down cities in the U.S. They were burning down cities and kingdoms here. That white aggression is also globally consistent. So that's what I was going to say about Benin before, but I lost my train of thought. We were on to something else right there.
Nigeria and the people, the Yoruba people and the Edo people got to, like...
We were near the waterfront, the ocean front, right? So they put us together, Nigeria, together with the northern part of now Nigeria, which is where the Fulani people and the Hausa people are. And they were their overseers, just to kind of put it in like slavery, American plantation slavery language that that Americans will understand. So they used ethnic difference to divide us here, right? If you look at the history of Nigeria, I don't know, Nigeria's had like 17 presidents or something. I think like 80% of them are from the north. Like we're still our current president is from the north. We're still dealing very, very actively with the impact of what they did and what they continue to do. So I mean,
I was supposed to say, and
it's a whole lot.
Strategy like that is why we had the genocide that was Rwandan. It's because the Belgians, those people came in and utilized ethnic difference.
Yes. Yeah. They've been dividing and conquering as a strategy forever.
This is why it's more than okay for Black folks, but people of the global majority, to have a healthy suspicion of folks who are white. Period. And I think I TikTok recently, sis, or a live or something. I don't even know. But it was in reference to, in the United States, this gun control reform conversation. And part of the reason why we can't get movement on this is because white folks here in the U.S. feel like they have to have guns to protect themselves from Black and brown people.
Yeah.
Statistically, the most dangerous person on the globe don't look like you and me.
No. Racially, to be clear. They don't look like us.
They don't look like us.
No.
We all need to be walking by.
And that gun, if we want to like, again, connect those dots, that gun was part of a new technology, new invention back in the age of colonization that was used to colonize. I mean, to subjugate people on their own land here, right?
To racial terror.
To terrorize people. There is, what is it? I I'm going to try to look it up on my computer before we get off. There's a really good documentary on Netflix about colonization and the fight for independence in Nigeria. The colonization of a nation. Oh man, I'm going to try to look it up. But they talk about the struggle, you know, and what is now in Lagos. Lagos is a Portuguese word. that is the name of like the biggest city in Nigeria. You see the connections. That's where that name came from. Lagos has its own local name. Nobody knows that name. Nobody knows Eko. We know Lagos, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, sorry, details just flooding in.
So it's so funny because, like you said, if Blackness is consistent globally, which I just love, then the antithesis of that is whiteness. And one of the things that I've been really vocal about is that whiteness as a construct only exists to oppose Black life in the continent. That's why it was.
Yeah.
And it is, and I don't want to get into this too much because we're at the Anti-Blackness reader, so this is not a white centering conversation. We deny and reject the ways over here. But what I do want to name is that white people weren't walking around writing. They were all different types of, like, race is a social construction. Nobody was walking around, I'm white, I'm Black, you this and that. That wasn't
That's right.
It didn't exist.
That's right.
And if you hated on people, you hated on them because, like you said, ethnic difference, tribal difference.
Exactly.
Cook y'all rice. All right? So it's not like humans are divorced from violent actions. That's not the case. White people who are racialized as white, gathered together, and I call it created this public campaign, this rhetorical strategy that would allow them grouped together to dominate control. And so that was in particular in connection to the colonization, to the theft, to the genocidal violence that was happening at the continent. And if there are people for indigenous who will watch this and see this, what I also want to name is concurrent with that project is also indigenous genocide and racial terror and colonization. And I think part of why it's hard to have these conversations because they are concurrent experiences of colonization, right? But I think what happened with the European settlers is initially they thought that they could break the will of the native folks, and then they decided they would try to bring them into their fold. But when they saw us and the otherworldliness of us, because we are otherworldly, we're not other, but we are otherworldly, they were like, we're not going to be able to like suck them into us. And because we can't suck them into us,
that's
we're going to completely annihilate them and not even let them be human.
Yeah. I mean, they recognized, so white people were on the continent for a long time before colonization. They studied us. They knew the brilliance that was here. They knew the organized, political systems or governance systems and structures that were in place. You know, when you watch films about what royalty looks like or looked like back in the day here in Africa, it's like a bastardized oversimplification of a very complex system. It's not just the king at the top. There's a whole council of people around him. There are decisions that the king cannot make without the chiefs and the councils that are around him. I mean, like, it was a brilliant system, you know, but no, we got democracy from who do we give credit for democracy from? The Greek or somebody? When
I found that out, again, it goes back to, that was 5 years ago. I was sitting there minding my own Black business. I spent almost 2 days in higher ed teaching communication. And every time I would teach public speaking, I always taught about democracy and public speaking and stuff like that. And it always starts with the Greeks, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, forever, 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 forever. I just like, and then when I
Where did they
started,
get it from? They came and studied in Africa,
well,
y'all.
that's what
They
I
came
said.
here.
When I
This
started
is where they got it from.
my decolonial journey in 2016, all right, and when I started it before then, but when I got serious about that thing, okay, like serious,
Yeah.
serious, I said,
Mm-hmm.
let me go do some digging, because this don't add up. And sure enough, you can't make the math.
It
Democracy,
ain't.
our shit. Rhetoric, our shit. All coffee, our shit. But we could get Starbucks and say,
Astronomy.
listen, Starbucks that sat here and made it mocha
Our
chocolate,
shit.
frappuccino, all that shit got people thinking coffee is Italian.
I'm saying the PR campaign, you know, I use PR. I'm like,
That's what
whiteness
I'm saying.
had, again, we're not going to center whiteness today, but they had a whole strategy, a PR campaign, books, you know, pseudoscience to back up the nonsense. Like, you know, they came with everything that they had because they knew the value. You know, they even if we don't see our value, they do. That's why they treat us this way. They've been knowing it.
I mean, if we just hold that for a second. Early at the call, we talked about the power of transmission, how all of those things moved in waves to us despite the separation and the tearing apart, right?
Uh-huh.
And you think about the brilliance of what's been created in spite of, I too would be scared. Because then the list
Yeah.
goes on of things we were
Yeah.
still able to globally commit to and create in spite of the tremendous.
Yes. Yes.
I wouldn't
Yes.
want what we could create if we were finally living safely and equitably either.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
invested to whiteness and supremacy culture.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I want to talk about in real time because you said if we knew our worth, which again, I got my kids
Mm-hmm.
very close to me because that's something on my journey to deal with that internalized anti-Blackness. This is why I've been real careful of late, especially there's a conversation around racism. Sure, let's have it. And then there's a conversation around anti-Blackness. Those are not the same things. Anti-Blackness is the denial of Black humanity. It is the minimization and erasure of Black truth. It's making sure that our fullness is never on stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
part of what I've had to do is address that in me. I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
Sally, Becky, Kenny. I'm talking about Kina. I've had to deal with me
Same.
and the ways that I've rejected the Black
Mm-hmm.
because I've been
Yep.
conditioned to. There are no words to capture all of that, huh?
Yeah. It's rough. It's rough when you start to wake up and I don't know anybody, even the wokest of woke, the most conscious, back in the day, we became conscious. We were becoming conscious, not woke, but
When you let your call, like, let it get gravity, you know?
uh-huh. Yes. Yeah, like when you start to realize that, yeah, everyone that I know, even the most, woke of us, had or has and continues to have that journey of discovering, oh shoot, oh, there it is. It's still, there's still some whiteness, some white ideology, some anti-Blackness specifically that is rooted in in us. You know, we were specifically taught anti-Blackness. It wasn't, I mean, it was vague in a lot of ways, but it was also very, very specific.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not talking about, oh, we just kind of, you know, consumed the fog of anti-Blackness. No, we were in so many ways. And I have the, you know, unique experience of having grown up and spent time on the continent and in the US, and it's in both places. You know, we didn't escape it because we were here on the continent. For sure, it's here too. So yeah, I'm not catching too many other comments, but I just caught one that says it's a never-ending process of unlearning, and that is real, and it's painful. Like, I have memory of, so hair was a big thing for me, in my, like, coming to myself, coming back to myself.
I call it coming home to yourself. That's what it feels like.
Yes, yes. Hair was a big thing, and it's a big sort of storyline for me. I always had very, very coarse hair. I was breaking combs, crying and breaking combs growing up. I remember going to get my hair done back in Nigeria when I was a little girl, and my mom and aunts doing my hair. And when we got ready to move to the States, they cut my hair. First of all, I came with my dad. My mom didn't come when I first came over. So they cut my hair, and I looked like a boy, like, right? Air quotes. That's what, I was at the airport after we had landed in the US. I was at the airport going to the bathroom, and this white, you know, lovely white lady said, "Oh, honey, no, that's your bathroom over there," and was guiding me away from the girls' bathroom to the boys' bathroom because I had that cut hair. Now, even the fact that if you look at schools, it's evolved in some places, in Nigeria and in Ghana. Again, those are my two contexts for West Africa. Those are the places where I've lived and spent the most time. You see that in some schools, girls are required to cut their hair like that, right? And there's a lot of colonial, you know, European standards of what they required in their schools that is still here on the continent. They're gone, but we still have schools that are enforcing these rules that they used to enforce about how girls can wear their hair, whether you can have, there was just a situation here in Ghana about a boy with locks that was not allowed to gain entrance to a private school because of his dreadlocks, and
Goes out of his head
here in Ghana. Mm-hmm. And it was a big to-do, and the policy was that they have a policy that something about long hair, but they never asked any white children to cut their long hair. So make it make sense. Make it make sense. It don't. So anyway, fast forward to, you know, preteen, teenage me after moving to the US. And y'all remember Germac? Is it Germac? Was that the shampoo brand or whatever? They used to have these commercials. And it was Germac Bounce Back Beautiful Hair was the lyric. I can still sing it. I can hear the jingle in my head. And I would take a slip, right, and put the slip around my hair in my bedroom by myself because I wanted long hair, because that's what I was, that quick, within, I came when I was 10, within 3-4 years, I was like, yes, Germac, bounce back, beautiful hair, Germac, bounce back. Like, I was like, I've never told that story publicly because it still hurts that I was ever in that place.
My heart started,
you know,
beating faster as you was telling that story. I was working.
It hurts my heart.
I was working on this research paper, and part of what I was doing was looking at old newspapers published in the U.S. Black-owned newspapers. Okay, black-owned,
yeah,
is the word here.
Yeah,
not just regular. These were newspapers for us, by us in the United States, particularly Chicago, Detroit, which was supposed to be progressive hubbubs. I mean, that's where that great migration, right? People from the South,
right,
those areas. So black-owned newspapers, and I It was a paper from like the 1930s, maybe early 40s, and there was an advertisement, and it said "relax so they can relax."
Wow.
Black owned.
Shit.
And so putting
Relax
whiteness
so
as
they can relax.
relax
Yes, that's the part,
as a
right?
survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Rejection of self, rejection of ancestral knowledge and ties as a survival mechanism. And I feel like this is a great place to transition to that inner turmoil that we experience across the diaspora, right? On my side of the street, it sounds like those Africans, they think they're better than us. Those Africans, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. And this is messy and it's sticky, but we need to have these conversations to heal.
Whew. Are we ready? Are we ready to get?
Well, the ancestors are ready.
We ready to get real?
Again, so like decolonize Kina. Maybe 4 years ago, I was at this event. It was at a library. And it was like international something something. And I kid you not, I think the group of people were from Ghana. And they were speaking in a language I don't know, sis. But it's like stomach. And it's like I knew, like somewhere deep, deep inside. And it was a morning feeling I had. Like me. Like I should know what they're saying. Like I should be able to understand what they're saying. And it was a lonely feeling. I mean, I still can't describe it. It felt like I was close, but not close enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we touch that? How do we name that? How do we identify that? Because for so long here, growing up as a descendant of enslaved people, especially in the South, Africans are people that you are disconnected. They are not like us. We have no connection. They think they're better. That's what I heard growing up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I came across that, they think they're better. I came across the African booty scratcher, like you literally came from the jungle. So you're definitely not better. You are with the monkeys, our own people, Black people treating Africans that way. So it's a really confusing time coming at the age that I did, because I was getting all these messages, and we were also at the time attending a white church. So there was a whole, because that's another story, but my dad had befriended this white pastor.
So white Jesus, and all the racial terror that comes with him. Then Black folks clearly rejecting your personhood.
Mm-hmm. All at the same time. And not all Black people, let me be clear, because one of the people that really was influential in my life was my elementary school principal, who what you would have called her the conscious, that conscious Black, educator back in the day. That was luckily
or something pretty, like a big bright scarf or something.
Man, luckily she was my principal. So anyway, that's another tangent I could go off on. I love her, Mrs. Williams. Love Mrs. Williams. She was a key to my evolution, even through college years, through when I was going through my conscious, my kind of more holistic conscious awakening and whatnot. So yeah, there's all of that. And so what I witnessed was, I'm very grateful that I have the parents that I had, because they were They were never explicitly, because let me start by saying this. It comes from both sides, you know, from Africans that migrate to the US, who show up in the US, who are befriended by white people, who are, you know, the you know, newfangled Black person that's in their life. This is now their Black friend. This is now,
And
they feel more comfortable.
And they get to be a white savior in those spaces.
And they get to be a white savior. We can help you navigate this country. Let's show you this. Let's help you with this. We had people like that in our story. I have this woman that had the nerve to pop up on my Facebook page with some nonsense. You should be grateful. Da, 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 da. This was a woman back in the day who was supposedly a family friend helping us, right? So there are a lot of African immigrants that end up in the U.S. and then they're like, white people are amazing. White people are good. You know, they've got the brainwashing, if you will, from the continent of, you know, of white supremacy, white delusion, and then they end up in the States, you know, and they're, you know, welcomed by not all, but some enough white people to feel like, oh, white people are great, you know, and then when you try to tell them, which I did, I remember a family friend came. I was in college at the time, and I was like, yo, chill, like, you need to chill out. You don't, that ain't gonna work out for you, bro. Like, no. And he was like, what? Oh, you're doing too much. This and this. I was like, okay. It was another maybe year or two, and he was like, okay, I see it now. Trying to save you some time. I try to tell you to tread lightly. You know, you know, these Black people over here, you know, so that you know, the immigrant Black shows up and is like ready to go, ready to take advantage of all the opportunities and the programs and the things and the that, and then they're like looking down their nose at, you know, Black African American, right? Black people, descendants of the survivors of slavery. Like, do you even understand the fact that they are alive, breathing? They, like, you have no idea of what is happening over here, but you just show up and you just want to be making your judgments, right? So, like, the judgment is coming from the immigrants that are coming to the U.S. and also coming from our brothers and sisters here who also don't have the awareness or the knowledge of what's happened and what the African immigrants are coming to the country, or Jamaican immigrants, or, like, you know, Black people from the diaspora that grew up in the U.S. are coming with.
It's like believing the story of the colonizer about our African kin.
And that's exactly what it was. So on the news, we know how the news works. You know, there's the headlines or whatever and the feel-good story at the end, but the, you know, whatever crime happened that day is always going to have people that look like us. You know, so when, you know, speaking as a child of African immigrants, when our elders, our community is watching the news and they've just landed here, you know, automatically they're like, yeah, stay away, stay away. We didn't do all this for us to come here for you to be like them. So you're different, you're separate. And I was like, well, that's not what I'm saying at school. So no, I don't. But the thing is, thankfully, like I said, I'm glad I had the parents I did, because I didn't have to fight that fight. My parents knew different, they knew better. But our community at large, because, you know, we find each other wherever we go. Yeah, that was the messaging that a lot of my friends got, is stay away from the Black kids. And I was like, no, they're cool. I like them better. Those are our people. I don't know what this news TV, I don't know what they're talking about, but that's not what I actually see. That's not reality. So I was just able to see, like, myself. I was able to see us as one. And I don't know, I really felt like, I feel like one day, if I'm blessed enough to have my ancestry done, farther back than I can see it. I can see it pretty far, right? That's a privilege that I have to be able to see pretty far into like my ancestry, hundreds of years. But I don't know is if I have anyone in my lineage who was trafficked, right? And I feel like I do. I have some feeling that I actually have family members somewhere in the diaspora, for different reasons. So, there was just something in me from a young age. Like, I don't know why I had that view from such an early age, but I was just like, no, that's us. Y'all can't see it, but it's us. We're the same.
Yeah. I'm listening to you, and I'm making space for vulnerability and grief, because that's what it is. It's a grief. It's a longing. It's an mourning. I think when I really was intentional about decolonizing my life and learning the history, that for me was the click. Like, this is not separate from me. These people are not separate from me. This is not something outside of my circumference. This is my circumference. And it's heartbreaking because there are people in my family, because like my plan is, I am not, like, my plan, I do plan to make the return. When, how, I don't know. Right? And when I talk to family members, like, you're going to come, because I'm like, the Black shit is real. There are people in my family who are like, not that place.
And
like,
why?
Like, how do you,
what's
like, how, like, you can, and I mean, at that point, I can't unwrap it. I still haven't. I don't know, right? But like, how, like, it seems like an iceberg to crawl, to climb, to whatever, how do we chip away at that resistance, right?
I had a friend,
right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just like
finish
the whole entire continent has been otherized by Black Americans.
Yeah.
And I don't know what strategy, if there's just this gigantic strategy, maybe we need a big PR campaign, right?
We need Black Panther 2 to come out.
Right? So this is what I'm saying, like, to help people understand, this is not separate, this is source.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I was only half joking about Black Panther though, because I had a psychological, emotional experience watching what happened with that movie, and the way that it brought people together, and all of a sudden Africa was something we liked, something we wanted. Beyonce's did the Lion King. I mean, it was like, what is happening? Like, I literally
something bigger. But Beyonce, and I stains for Queen Bee, but her not knowing about blood diamonds. Come on, sis. So I'm like, you were right there. We're part of something bigger. Everybody know about blood diamonds, girl.
Everybody know about blood diamonds, B. So I'm only half joking, because there's something that definitely happened in that gave me so much hope after my experiences of just seeing the division, seeing us being divided, right? It's a strategy to divide and conquer, and then doing it to ourselves. But I was talking to a friend who was like, now that I know somebody, I want to come, because I've always thought about going to West Africa, but I never really knew if I really was going to do it, because I mean, they sold us, right? They sold our ancestors. So that's where her resistance was coming from, is those are the people that betrayed us and sent us over here to come and suffer. So why would I want to go back there? Right? And so there's just the simple, like, why would you want to go there? Like, they're, unevolved, and, you know, still in the jungle or whatever, you know, the stories, all the stories and the images, the kind of questions I got when I moved here was wild. You know, people were asking me questions and I was like, what do they think it's like over there? You know, and it took me a while to realize, oh, this is what they're watching. Okay. It makes sense now.
The media. I want to.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to shout out. First of all, I think every Black person needs to have a patron ancestor. Mine is Malcolm X. And I was having this conversation with my dad not too long ago. And he was like, yeah, they took him out because they were scared of like how he was something white people, something white people. And I said, Dad, that's not accurate. I said they took him out because they were scared of how he was going to he was creating spaces for Black people globally
to come together.
That was it. It had nothing to do with ending racism or ending segregation or whatever that shit. It was this man going around the continent and connecting dots, bringing those connections to the U.S. and saying, wait a second, you know? And that kind of movement is why that is my chosen patron saint. Not just because it was power, because he started to say, wait a second, this stuff isn't isolated. It's
not isolated. And the sooner we realize that and come together as diasporan global Black people, the better, right? Because I was just having that conversation recently. You know, there's so many things that are the maturity, I don't like that word, but like the way that a society can evolve and progress. Our growth has been stunted here on the continent due to colonization, right? And that has had different impacts. You know, when we talk about internalized, internalized anti-Blackness and interpersonal and individual and systemic, like when we kind of start to splice all those things out, that is happening here in response to and in survival, in the survival mechanisms in response to colonialism and the impacts of it and the continued impact of neocolonialism and financial structural colonialism here on the continent. So yeah, I think the only thing that will truly liberate us on a global level is coming together. This is why it has been an intention on the parts of colonizers to divide us. So, because again, they know, and they know once we start realizing that we are more same than different, and like you said, source than other, it'll just the whole thing is gone.
Like when you grow up as a kid, and sometimes you don't want your parents to talk to each other because, like, you try to run one game with your mama and you run game with your mama, and like
a whole different.
You're like, no, that's gonna mess it up. So like, I need them to have interference. But it feels like they have to have interference because if we could get on the same page, shit about to go down. And I want to be really about something that neither of us has said on this call, this live. Like, there is no place like the continent in terms of resources, in terms of majesty, wonder. There's no place like that. And so there's a reason why China, because that's what I'm saying, the ongoing colonization, right? Has come. And like, it is still being sourced out. Like, all of those things, those treasures are still being removed. And
absolutely.
So there's an investment people have made to keep that triangulation, to keep the violence. Because once you have, I call it a posture of demand, once you realize you own something, people can't take that shit away from you.
Yeah.
And so part of the building is recognizing we are one, and recognizing we are old shit.
Yep. Yep. And we can start demanding it now. And, you know, how do I want to put this? There's some habits that we need to rid ourselves of. Because in some ways, even our memory here on the continent doesn't go far back enough. Like we need to tap back into our elders that can still remember far back enough, you know, what they learned from their elders, you know, pre-colonialism, even if it's not pre-white people being on the planet. I mean, I'm on the continent, but pre-colonialism, what are our own indigenous ways of being and doing that we need to go back to? It's like the Brits left, right? Wherever you are on the continent, Nigeria and Ghana, it was the Brits. So they left a system in place, and we just inserted ourselves into it, right? But because of all the, you know, neocolonialism and all the, you know, we're just talking about the Francophone countries and the money that they had to keep in France, and France was earning interest off of their money, and the paternalism of it all. But like, so like we get into these positions of power, and we're short-sighted, right? You know, a lot of our leaders are short-sighted. Everybody's just trying to get what they can while they're in positions of power, instead of realizing, like, wait a minute, this is our shit now. We can do it differently, right? Is it the judges in Ghana and some other African countries still wear those white, like, wigs that they used to wear back in the day? Like, they still wear that today. Why? For why? Why are we still wearing that shit? So, that's not what we look like. It's weird.
Lies supremacy culture. I've been using that term a lot because supremacy doesn't just show up with white folks, and that's a whole nother conversation. We ain't gonna have that tonight. But that supremacy culture that's running around in certain, like, subgroups, right?
Yeah. And there's like you know, that thing where people want to get out the hood. People want to get out of Ghana. People want to get out of Nigeria. People want to get out of here. You know, we're chasing. There's still like a coveting of whiteness that just.
That white affirmation, and I think Jay put it in the comments earlier, that white affirmation, it's a hell of a drug. It's a hell of a. But when you said get back to that indigenous knowing, that ancestral knowing, made me think of a talk that I did today, which is like Juneteenth is one of those that allow us to remember grief and what we haven't gotten to grieve together.
Yeah.
Part of that too. So that's a part of that unraveling. If we're going to get back to that indigenous, ancestral, that deep, we have to grieve what we've lost. We have to move through the mourning, right?
Yeah.
That's hard. That's hard.
You know, and it's hard. It's hard. I'm a person that does not like to sit in my emotions. I'm learning to, but I don't like to. So to drop into that grief, and yeah, so it's like it's like pulling teeth. I don't want to go there. And because when I go there, it's like the weight of it. Like it's so heavy, and it's not just grieving what we've lost. It's also grieving what we're still losing.
Yeah.
What is being taken from us is one thing, but like what we're losing as that's being taken, you know, as we're fighting to survive and therefore losing certain things in the like surviving of it all. It's pain. It's grief and pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, ongoing. And then it's like individual, like what has it done, you know, to me? Like I believe I lost my mom some years ago now, and I feel like you know, we've got the like medical reason why she died, but like white supremacy is what really killed her in the end. Like, my mother was a graduate of a university in Missouri, University of Missouri, not some regional school that nobody has heard of, a state school, a master's. She had a master's degree from this school. I mentioned earlier that we moved to Nigeria and then we moved back to the US, and she could not get a job anywhere with a master's degree from the US. I didn't have it at the time to name what was happening, that she should have been able to get a job. Instead, she ended up going to beauty school. And something that used to be a ritual, you know, doing our hair, and became a survival mechanism, right? For a little while, she had a job at a factory where she was overqualified for, but it was like, you know, somebody like, you know, got her in. Like, you're overqualified, but at least you can do this. That's the first job that she had. But then immigration laws changed, and that's when in the 90s, I think the rule was if you can't prove that there is an American citizen that can do this job, then you can't hire an immigrant. You can't hire somebody that's here on a work visa or anything like that, or like whatever. And so all these stories about immigrants took your job, I'm like, nah. We were directly impacted by that law that came into effect. And so she was overqualified, lost that job, tried to get a job everywhere else, you know, all different kinds of places, and couldn't. But the impact on her health during this time of struggle. The other thing that happened is my dad, who was in the States with us, had traveled back to Nigeria. So when the immigration laws changed and she lost that job, she lost her status. So all of a sudden, I was born in the US, so I was a citizen, I was fine. My older sister was fine because she had been here for some medical reasons and had a different visa just for her. But my mom and my younger sister all of a sudden also like lost their status. So now it was like my dad can't even come back into the country because the conversations that you have to have and all the things that you have to do to cross, where's your family? They're in the US. Oh, what are they doing there? Are they there legally? Da, 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 da. So all of a sudden, she was stuck without a job in the US with us, and he was in Nigeria for a decade. Like, our whole family trajectory changed, right? So like the struggle that she went through ultimately broke her down physically and emotionally, and like one at a time. That period of time is when the diabetes came, and the high blood pressure, and the this and the that and the that. And ultimately, like, it became too much for her body to withhold. So when I was getting ready to move back, because I just moved back to Ghana like last year, for folks, we haven't talked about that yet, but my husband is Ghanaian, so he got recruited to come and work in Ghana, and I'm a consultant, so I can work from anywhere. So we decided to move back to Ghana a year ago. I had to go through some spiritual embodiment level stuff. Like, wow, my mother was around this age, younger than me actually, when she went through everything that I'm remembering that she went through. And somebody told me, I did a Reiki session with someone, and she was like, you need to write a letter to America about what America did, like your relationship with them. You need to process this. And I couldn't. I still can't, because the grief and the pain, I feel like, would just crush me, because I really do believe that if my mother had not gone through all that, she would still be alive today.
I'm so sorry.
So, thank you.
Violent systems will literally kill you.
It is literally killing us. Yeah.
You have made the return. I don't know if it's a return for you. It's kind of return, maybe not.
Kind of.
Because, I mean, yeah, you were there.
Right.
what does that mean, right? As you negotiate loss and grief, and you really have what our brother, our W.E.D. Du Bois held. It's not even a double consciousness. You have like a triple consciousness. How do you move through that?
Yeah. Sometimes I don't move. Sometimes I'm just in the house, like, I'm going to be on the couch today. One of the things that happened is still going on is, wait, let me back up because my brain went in like two different places. So I moved back. I have a teenager. And I remember before I ever became a parent, like knowing this was like as a teenager in Ohio, knowing that I wanted to raise my children. At the time, I thought I would have multiple children. All these children I was going to have. I wanted to raise them somewhere. If not, somewhere in West Africa in a Black majority country. As life played out, I was like, it's not going to happen. Like my story is not going the way I planned it. It's over. It's not happening. And then it happened. We had this opportunity with Eddie that got Eddie being recruited for this job. And we were like, okay, I think we can do this. At the time, everybody's Black sitting. I mean, you've heard of all the Black people leaving the U.S. specifically for Ghana, but for other places too.
Well,
so it was like
because Ghana had that PR campaign to get us back, the year of return. I was feeling
that brilliant.
I'm like, and that's why Ghana's the first place on my list. I'm coming to see you.
It's brilliant. Yes. So now you can come see me. I got you. So yeah, we're like, okay, we can figure this out. We can make this work. And at the time, as you all know, in the U.S., that is, it's been a shit show with the Trump administration coming and going and everything else that's been happening since. It was like, it's time to go. Like, if we can go, let's go and just breathe. Even if we end up coming back, let's go and breathe for a little while. And so there's definitely, when we talk about, privilege in the context of like DEI consulting work and white people recognizing their privilege, their societal privilege and all of that, there's something I like to call everybody's attention to is like the privilege. You can be a person of the global majority and have privilege as well. So I feel like coming back for us is different because one, he's Ghanaian, right? That's a privilege. We're coming back. I'm coming back with a Ghanaian who speaks the language, who's from here, who has family here. That's different. I'm also coming back to West Africa, so I can understand culturally how people are moving, even if I don't speak the language, right? And so there's a lot of that stuff that has made the move easier. But there's a lot of stuff that has made it hard too. Some of it is just general learning to function in another language. Somewhere here sticking out. Learning to, in another system. So like, the electricity is a good example. The electricity is basically like a top-up system, unless you go through some elaborate something to like do something else. Everything is a top-up system. Like the economy in Ghana is like the death. If the rubber meets the road, 1 + 1 = 2 was like an economic system. You pay, you get. Ain't no credit. I mean, there is some like credit system being built up. Ain't no fake money. It's either real or it's not real, right? You either paid for the electricity, therefore you get to use it, or when the meter runs out, guess what? Your light's going off until you pay it back up again. And if you've just moved to Ghana, like I did, and the light goes off for the first time, and you don't know that's going. I was like, wait, what? And they told me when the place we rented, the landlord gave us a sheet of paper with all the details and everything. And she had said that, you know, here's where the office is where you can go pay. But I was like, it's the weekend. They're closed. How do we do this? Thankfully, something, so Eddie and I sitting there, and Eddie, that's the other thing though, like Eddie's Ghanaian, but he has not lived here since he was a teenager. So he doesn't have the adult knowledge of what it is like. Long story short, we found an app online randomly, just Googling like, what are we supposed to do now? We found an app online and we went through some elaborate, like convoluted, you never know if it's going to work out. And then it's like, wait, it worked out. Okay, I punched in the number. I went and I did a Bluetooth thing by the meter and oh, the power's back on it. You know, so it's just like every little thing. It's just like you never know when the next curveball is going to come. So those are the things that you would have to figure out no matter where you are. You're going to have to learn how to operate in a new country with new systems, like everything. The things from like, you know, the most difficult things are the you know, like very present, like tentacles of colonialism that are still operating. Like that story I told earlier about the boy with the dreadlocks that wasn't allowed admission initially until it was a big to-do, and then he was allowed admission. And I was like, how is this happening in 2021 in Ghana? In Ghana, of all places. Ghana is a special place too, because I mean, this was aside from Ethiopia that was never colonized, Ghana is the first country to gain independence. You know, the legacy that Ghana has globally, on the continent, but also globally, is a very unique one. Ghana was first and Nigeria, I think, was second. So, you know, I have high expectations for how things should be in Ghana. And I'm often disappointed. You know, and so that's hard. I'm disappointed in the leadership, you know, sometimes, but also just like in the day to day, you know. So there's a lot of little things that happen that you're like, oh, here, really? Yeah, we're still doing this. Why is white Jesus on every bus
Not like
that goes by? I'm over it. I'm over him. Like, can we? He didn't look like this. Just simple. Take white Jesus off your buses, off your churches, off, you know, the walls of the church. He's an imposter. Take him down. That ain't what he looked like. White Jesus is an imposter.
That part.
And a tool.
And
an imposter and a tool. And a strategy.
Oh, sis, you make me so full. I be telling the folks, if you don't do nothing in your life, follow Black women and femmes and trans folks, and just you know that story. Have you ever heard the story Peter Piper? It's violent, but
yeah.
And all the kids, and then something
would come. Yes.
Yeah, violent. But the remix of that, just follow us. Just, you know, follow us. And then
we'll get you further.
There you go. There you go.
We will get you further than anybody else will, you know, because we are just
consistently the folks who have never modeled our humanity after white men.
Yep. We've had to stay very clear about who we were and who they were. As a matter of survival, we had to stay very, very clear. There's this analogy that I tell sometimes. It's in a book that I read about elephants, and I may get the animals wrong, but it's elephants and I think mice in a room. And it's basically that, or it might be ants, elephants and ants. Anyway, the point of it is the elephant doesn't have to be mindful of every move that the mice or the ants are making because they're so big, right? They're dominant in that space and taking up so much room. But guess who knows that if the elephant turns its head this way, that leg is about to follow? Guess who knows just by a twitch what the elephant is about to do? As a matter of survival, the ants, the mice, the whatever the animals are, have had to pay attention to what the elephant is doing, right? And so, like, if you want to do anything with as much impact, if you want to liberate people, you know, if you're, I do DEI in the context of workplaces, like jobs and companies and organizations and stuff. If you're doing this work in schools and in faith communities, just in the community, in society, liberation work, etc., like find the Black women and femmes, because we've had to watch. That's why we know what's going on. It's not just magical. I mean, yes, we are magical.
There's that part.
But it's not just fluffy. It's not just Black girl magic. Like, we know things. There's a reason for it.
That part. I am so honored to know you, to get to ask you, how can I serve you, sis? How can I affirm you, sis? I'm telling Black people, part of your embodied practice, we don't get to choose to serve and affirm each other. It has to be a lifestyle. It can't be a casual, I big up other Black people when I want to. It literally has to be an embodied practice. This is how we get free.
Yeah.
Because the colonizer and empire has told us that scarcity is real, and it's not. It's told us, to your point, divide and conquer. And so to fight those things, we have to learn to honor each other, affirm each other, serve each other. I am honored to know you. I am honored to serve you, to amplify you. And so I am so grateful. So grateful.
Listen, I love you. It's mutual. This is a two-way love fest. For any of my people that are watching or watching this whenever you watch this, like, go follow Kina on one of her 20 Instagram handles.
Where do the people find you? Like, when you post, you post your head in social media, like, I'm here, and then where do they find you?
Actually, you can. I have something I want to share before we jump off, though. But I will tell you where to find me is at Mosaic for Equity. The 4 is the number 4, the digit 4. Mosaic for Equity is where you can find me here on Instagram. And if you look for that anywhere, I'm on LinkedIn too. If you just look for hashtag Mosaic for Equity, you'll find me, because I drop that on posts. But yeah, I have something I want to share before, because I was thinking about all the ways, why is it that I felt as a 10-year-old coming back to the US that, you know, that affinity, that family, you know, why I felt like, no, Black people in America are me, I am them. Like, why is it that I felt that way? What was it that I saw that I recognized, right? Beyond the dash, beyond the the Jara or the what did you call it?
Lanyap.
Lanyap. Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and I made a list, and it got me really excited. And I was like, yo, I want to talk about these things when we get the chance to.
Oh, you gonna share us the list or no? You gonna share us the?
Yes, I'm looking it up.
While you're doing that, I want to shout out our friend, our brother Tommy, who linked us together. I should make sure I acknowledge the one who put each other in each other's life. So shout out to Tommy for giving us the gift.
Love you, Tommy. Yes. It's funny because I saw one of your lives maybe like a week before Tommy connected us. And it took me a minute to figure out that it was the same person. And I was like, oh my God, it's her! I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I felt like I was special, that he would even put me in touch with you. Okay, globally Black, globally consistent. Why Blackness is globally consistent. Speaking rituals. What do you do when you enter a room and don't speak?
Oh, you get shamed. The older people gonna be like, where you going? What you doing? Where are your people?
Same,
Who are your people?
same. Who raised you? Who are your people? Yes, that is globally consistent. If you are Ghanaian or Nigerian, there are actually entire like rituals there, and they're different sometimes by ethnic group, right? I remember when I first was visiting Eddie's family, and we did, I think it was somebody's birthday party, and they were like, no, there's like a whole ritual. We're not going to do it because we're not, we're just family. But like you would come in, you would go person to person and go around the room and speak, and then you would sit down and somebody will come greet. Like there are actual rituals about speaking and greeting people, right? And so that is African, that is Black. Pouring one out for the homies. Pouring one out for the homies. Rappers didn't come up with that. That's libation. That is ancestral. That is Black. That is African. Yes, been doing that for eons, centuries. Okay. Raising kids, of course. I was the loudmouth in my family. I got many whoopings. But just the rearing of children to respect your elders, right? And we can have a whole, pros and cons conversation about that, about whoopings and violence and all of that. But the point is like we do that here, we do that there. We've talked about white Jesus a little bit, but even the experience of Black church is very connected to not just church in Africa, but our ancestral, our indigenous faith practices. I learned a couple of years ago talking to my grandmother who died in 2020. We don't really know how old she was because, they weren't keeping records like that 85 plus years ago.
But also Black don't crack. Is that on the list? Black don't crack? Is that?
Oh yeah. That's not on the list, but yes. Black don't crack is because, she was going on till she was 85 plus years old. We knew she was at least 85. She might have been 90 for all we knew. But before she converted, and she was alive, practicing indigenous faith practices here, our indigenous religions, before she converted to Christianity. And she was a dancer. She was like, I was one of the people that would dance. They had bells on their ankles and they would come and dance, right? And images are just flashing, right? Of what I'm like, yo, like this is wild. So there's that. I spoke a little bit about pidgin English or broken English, which is like, I would compare it to like patois or like AAVE, where we kind of put our spin on the dominant language. I don't know. I've never heard it, but I'm pretty sure there's probably something similar in the French-speaking African countries as well with French. Somebody can let us know. It's like the creativity.
I was going to say, and it's like the tongue literally trying to like unlearn the dominant language in the space.
Yeah.
It's almost like rejection. Yeah. Tongue is rejecting that shit.
It is, and making it our own. And there are, I need somebody to do like a thesis, like a paper or a study on this, if it's not been done already. Because what's also cool is there are similarities, in the words that we've inserted into English or into AAVE, like lingo. And sometimes when I hear this, or I'll hear somebody say something, from the Caribbean, and like in patois or something else, and I'll go, wait a minute, that word means this here. What does it mean there? Like these moments happen all the time, and I'm like, oh my God. Like we took us with us everywhere that we went. And we talked about food. There's something, I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to come back to chitlins in a minute because I want to share something about chitlins. The barbershop and the hair salon being a place to gather and commune. Ritual. And the beat, that good beat, when the beat drops, that's the African drum. That's drum. That's drumming.
The A, like the way we beat each other up in a circle, right?
Yes.
You just do
And
it
we
like
have that beat when you feel it in your body and your chest. Those are your ancestors coming through. Yo. It's not for play. It's real. That is so, like, spiritual, like the music of it all. And there's a drum that's a talking drum, because Yoruba language is very tonal and musical. And so there's a drum that is called a talking drum, and it can be used to communicate messages, right? Like you can tell a whole story. And people kind of know certain songs and know certain things or whatever. So when they took away music, right, the ability to have gatherings and music on these plantations, again, they were taking away a form of communication. It literally was a form of communication. So there's that.
twerking.
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you something. Some of the best twerkers. I saw a video. One of my cousins, in-laws actually, went to the Igbo side of the country in Yoruba, in Nigeria, and came back with these videos. I saw 75-year-old women that would put y'all to shame. You have not seen twerking.
Low to the ground.
I'm like, how are you moving? What? How are you doing that?
It's not even
women and men, by the way.
Here in the U.S., they've made that a about sexuality, but it's so much more than sexuality. Like the hips and the ground and the inertia.
The inertia. Yes. The inertia and the gravity of it all. Like, yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Even taking it back to, I don't know why my mind went from twerking to catching the Holy Ghost, but that's ancestral too, being kind of consumed in spirit.
That's why that woman in church that went around and just ass popping. They're like, this isn't even, why is this happening at church? It's a spiritual practice.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the last thing that I was, handshakes. I asked my husband, I was like, I'm coming up with the list. What do you think? And he was like, elaborate handshakes as part of that greeting is also something that is present here that translates, globally Black. Just the way that you handshake. There are different ones, in Ghana. I see a lot of men in Ghana, whatever they do, they'll end with a snap, like the fingers, that thing. And he was telling me that he has a different handshake with one brother from his other brother. And I didn't even know that till he said it today. I was like, you do? So there's that too. Okay, last thing. The story that I heard about the genesis of Black people in the US eating foods like chitlins is it was the leftover part of the animal that they didn't want. So that's what you had to eat. But when you look at it from my perspective, we eat every part of the animal for those that eat meat. We eat every part of the animal already. So it wasn't, I'm thinking back to myself and I'm thinking, I don't know that Africans who were brought over and trafficked to the States and were left with the chitlins, looked at it the way that we look at it today, like, ew, that's the part of the animal that we don't want. But there's certain things in our food that translated, like the rice we talked about, the okra, and the gumbo, right? And like there's a lot of similarities with the starches and the carb in the vegetables and the sauces and the beans, the black-eyed peas and beans, the yam and the what you call a yam is not what we call a yam on the continent, but I think they found what was most similar and ran with it and called it yam. I remember being confused, like, that's not a yam. What? Why come?
The memories of Homeplace were still there.
We're still there, right? But the chitlins thing was interesting to me, and I'm really curious to know, to learn more about that too, because I think that the story is that, oh, they got the short end of the stick as far as those foods go, and I think we don't sometimes give I call them like community ancestors, even if you're not a person that's a descendant of an enslaved person, our community ancestors, the credit that they were people before, whole people and talented, brilliant people before they were ever trafficked and brought over and taken all around the world, but in the U.S. specifically, as we're talking about today. So like there's certain cultural things that they brought over. There's a lot of know-how that they brought over that allowed them to survive. There's a lot of spiritual know-how that they brought over that got integrated into the new religions and faith practices that evolved, and that they took on. There is there's this, there's one story in particular that I think might be interesting to folks to go look up, which is that the vaccinations, I mean, there's been a lot about vaccinations in the last couple of years with the pandemic, but the practice of inoculating people against illness is also indigenous African practice. It was brought over by an African, and his an enslaver got credit for the practice of inoculation and vaccinations, but that's also African, rooted African.
Put this out here. I own a domain, and it's called something. I purchased it a long time ago, so I don't remember. But it's something like we did that to.com, right? And I'm going to manifest that website, and it's all about reclaiming the thing that it's truly the home place that other groups and regions have gotten credit for. Because again, when you know your story, when you know who you are, you don't have the posture that is inorganic to humanity.
Yeah. We have to start telling our own stories and reclaiming.
So anybody who does websites, I'll let you, girl. Here, we gonna be talking on the internet.
I know. Do you know what time it is here?
Huh?
So do you know what time it is here? I thought I was gonna be in the States, but I'm back in Ghana, and it's 1:39 a.m.
I thought you were gonna be stateside for this.
I was supposed to be, and the plans changed, so it's going on 2 a.m. over here.
Oh,
but this is I love it though.
Listen,
I love it.
We're gonna have you back. We about to do all the things together. I'm so honored. Okay, go get some rest. What are you on? So you're about to start your Friday.
It is, yes. Who is this? Jade Soul Zoo. Operation Take Our Shit Back with interest.
Like, first of all, that was one sentence, but Joe was like, with interest. And you know what? For the people who are not Black, don't be intimidated by this, because everyone, and I've been saying this kind of loosely, needs to develop a Pan-African framework. Everyone needs to understand the truth of their indigenous humanity. White man construct that has lied to everyone. It's the world's biggest pyramid scheme. So you too have a stronger place in indigeneity, and don't have to like be upset when Black people center themselves in this movement, because we ain't taking shit from y'all.
No.
All right, sis. Enjoy.
And if you're intimidated, like, that's your problem. No, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Thank you for having me.
That list too, BT Dub.
Okay. There were some comments I saw about saving this. I don't know, because people couldn't stay and they wanted to come back.
Yes.
Do you know how to do that?
I save stuff over here at the Anti-Blackness Reader Project.
Okay. So I can direct people that missed this to your page to find it.
Yes.
All right. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.